Thank you all for joining us today for our live webinar on how digital is reshaping banking in Lebanon. My name is Tamer and I will be your moderator for this session. So, of course, Lebanon has been through one of the world's most challenging financial crises in recent history. The crisis, coupled with the COVID pandemic and the 2020 port blast, has had significant impact on the country and its people. Lebanon's GDP, the currency value, the financial sector, and the overall cost of everyday goods and services have all been profoundly affected and have created insurmountable challenges for the Lebanese people. As the country looks to rebuild trust in its institutions, we'll be discussing how banks, regulators, fintechs, and startups can come together in service of the people and what role will digital play in Lebanon's future. So joining us today is an esteemed panel of leaders and visionaries to share their insights on how digital is reshaping banking in Lebanon. We have Ms. Randa Bdeir, regional pioneer in electronic payments and credit card technology, currently the Deputy General Manager and Head of E-Payment Solutions and Card Technology at Lebanese, and a member of MasterCard's Global Advisory Board for Technology. Welcome, Randa.
Thank you.
We have with us also Gebran, Head of Digital Banking and Operations Strategy at Bank Audi, a leading expert in digital transformation, customer experience, and innovation. Welcome, Gebran.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom.
And we'll have shortly joining us Mario Makary, Senior Director and Cluster Manager for Levant at financial services giant Visa. And of course, our very own Tamer Mauge, Managing Director for Middle East and North Africa at Codebase Technologies, a pioneer in biometric payments, and an expert in financial technology, IT, and alternative payments. So thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to first hand to Tamer to just take us through some of his insights on the financial and technology sector in Lebanon.
Thanks, Tom, and welcome everyone on board for today's webinar. Can you pull up the screen, Tom, if you may? Very good. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So as Tom mentioned, we'll be speaking on how digital is reshaping banking in Lebanon. So a little bit about Codebase. If we can move to the next slide, Tom. So Codebase, like many already know, is one of the world's fastest growing open API banking solutions providers. With a vision that we've been undergoing the past few years, trying to disrupt the way technology is being used, if you like, and with the hopes of doing it for the greater purpose. The way our engineers have done the whole thing in a digital financial space with the given experience working with both conventional and Islamic banks, fintechs, if you like, neobanks, challenger banks, any leader pretty much out there in the market, even touching on startups in general. So, we've launched several propositions, be it neobanks in this region, challenger banks, digital financial propositions that has been done not only within this region, but pretty much worldwide. We're present in more than 4 continents already, and we're growing with a team of close to 200 today. It's pretty much, you can call it as a niche boutique company, if you like, based on consultancy, where we like to work hand in hand with any partner or institution we come across. Of course, with our award-winning, as we call it, Bank in a Box or DigiBank platform, that is being very helpful to many customers across the board to be able to unlock their true, potential and disruptive innovation. Next. What have we been doing in the market pretty much is supercharging those digital initiatives within those financial services. We've chosen today to speak about a few of our propositions that we've worked, and we take pride in the likes of Blink in Jordan, where we've developed and launched Jordan and Iraq's first fully digital bank, if you like, for both retail and SMEs clients. There's a big potential there of unbanked citizens and people with over 40 million of a population. So Blink Bank is owned by Capital Group, and the proposition goes over and beyond Jordan into Iraq as well. We've worked for Jordan's most, feature-rich, we would call it, digital banking offering. Zand in the UAE, which is we've built and launched the GCC's first completely virtual and digital bank that addresses both corporate and retail. In Bahrain, a digital arm of one of the largest Islamic banks in the world, which is KFH, where we've also launched Bahrain's first digital banking arm for them. We've done an exciting project on the regulatory front, if you like, which is developing and launching also Bahrain's fully automated RegTech solution that is very much flexible in streamlining the back-end operation while ensuring really precise reporting. Last but not least, an exciting also project in Pakistan that Pakistan has something called the Roshan digital proposition, where any Pakistani pretty much living outside Pakistan can open a bank account and remit money, and bringing the people closer to home. Next. Zooming into Lebanon and today's exciting topic, before we go into solutions and exciting projects and the potential, the true potential for Lebanon, let's just take a look at the economic crisis in Lebanon and what had taken place pretty much the past 3 to 4 years. And since the financial industry had crashed in Lebanon, COVID, the pandemic took place, the port explosion pretty much has devastated the country in general. And between the years of 2019 and 2021, the gross domestic product, contracted by 58%. And according to the government's Central Statistics Department, food, beverage, transport, health, prices had pretty much gone up, skyrocketing for more than touching on 500%. And the local currency lost over 90% of its true value. Next. And those effects, of course, on the payment side of things, on the banking itself, Lebanon today is largely a cash economy. Many people rely on foreign remittances to be able to survive. Lebanon don't really have access. Lebanese don't really have access to their savings in general. So these pretty much show the landscape today. And then, if we can tie today the potential of what we can do going forward, given those elements and what has taken place the past few years, and unlocking the true potential going forward is the key message of today's webinar pretty much. Next. Is Lebanon and the Lebanese really ready for innovation? From my humble opinion, I would say yes. See, the population is pretty much open and adaptive to new innovative technology and solutions. In 2017, 54% statistics show that people having bank accounts adopted digital banking pretty much in that space. Lebanon does really rank third after few countries for adoption of digital banking services. The high number of smartphone penetration, internet being available, shows that the adoption could be really high, and can strongly pull and launch any digital innovation within the banking and payment space. And easier fintech penetration would be able to occur. Education, the country ranks 19th in the quality of its educational system, and number 6 probably worldwide in quality of math, science, and education. And something that caught my attention today earlier when I was preparing for the presentation is, close to 2,000 graduates join the ICT sector annually. So, these elements being in place pretty much shows even the devastation took place, even the financial crisis. The people of Lebanon can pivot and bounce back in a timely manner, if everybody works together and all the ingredients are pretty much in place. Next. Lebanon was once the fourth most served market by fintech companies. And, looking at statistics, 14% of MENA's region startups used to be hosted in Lebanon. And that is due to the advanced fintech ecosystem pretty much in place. And that's really a recipe for success, in my opinion, today. Looking at the ecosystem, the support, the element, what's there. Historically, Lebanon was one of the top three companies or countries, sorry, one of the top three companies in the Middle East, North Africa, MENA in general, to receive the most startup VC funding. And, we look at the likes of, StarTech, a next generation fintech studio that builds technology, enables companies empowering the financial services industry. Veritech, an ecosystem for entrepreneurs, really provides pretty much dynamic environment for the creation and development of startups and SMEs. Pretty much more than 80 incubators and accelerators providing mentoring, training, technical and financial assistance to fintechs, to fintech companies in Lebanon. These things are already in place and the history is there. So, that is something positive that we should all look into. Okay, so we've mentioned and we've touched on those elements being positive, some of them negative, the others. So this creates, the question is, what opportunities do we really see ahead? Let's all, first of all, look at the role of the Central Bank of Lebanon. More recently, in the past 2 years, there's an increasing support from their side for innovation, helping and pushing transformation across the country and the ecosystem. Financial institutions in the country are focusing really on digital first initiatives. And we've been seeing that in a sort of a transformation to rebuild the credibility that either has been lost or not be found, focusing on cryptocurrency to protect against the weak Lebanese pound, with more shops accepting alternative currency payments. Fintechs like Purple are integrating with the global remittance players and cash out partners to really optimize remittance costs. So, these are some of the opportunities that, show the way ahead today, pretty much in Lebanon. I hope I was able to raise some of those, questions that would come ahead, and how we can really look at the landscape together as a team of expertise, pretty much from our guests today, Codebase from our experience. And, let's make this more interactive as we go along today's webinar. And thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Tamer, for this intro, pretty much comprehensive on the market.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Gebran.
Thank you, Tamer, for those great insights. So we'd like to now move on to our panel discussion. And really the first topic that we want to address, which I think perhaps Randa, you could maybe start us off with, is what are the major challenges that financial institutions in Lebanon are facing, considering what has happened to the country and the situation that the people are currently in and institutions are currently in?
Thank you, Tom. Tamer's discussion was so broad, and I think he tapped into all the things that Lebanon or the banking sector is facing. But I will rephrase, or I will speak about some other points. Lebanon, after 2019, they faced a lot of political and financial crisis, in addition to the COVID-19 and its consequences on the economy. And there is also the Beirut port blast, which make a disaster on Lebanon. This economic financial crisis has a lot of effect, like it has said, for the GDP. It was decreased by
Sorry, I think, Randa, we're having some slight connection issues. I think, Gebran, perhaps you can maybe jump in while we wait for Randa to reconnect.
Sure, exactly. I can continue from where she left, like on the basically the impact of the financial crisis that has been big on banks and the whole economy. And banks have these three main pillars: deposits, the lending, and the transaction business. And kind of the first two are completely freeze, no deposits, no lending, and the full focus is on transaction business. I think we're having Randa again. If
Hello.
Can you?
I think yes, Randa is reconnected now.
Hello. Yes. Sorry for the connection. So I was speaking about the GDP who decreased by 58%. It was before around $50 billion in 2018, and it went down to around 2.5 billion in 2021, which caused a lot in the market. And as he said, Tamer, the local currency 90% lost 90% of its value. And in addition, we have a depletion of the reserve in our foreign currency reserve, because it went down, it decreases from $38.5 billion at the September of 2019 to less than 10 billion as of today. We have now in our foreign currency only 10 billion. And it's not sure, this number is not sure, because it's not as some of them are estimating, it's about 10 billion. The medicine are no longer subsidized, and the prices went tripled and 1,000 of times. And of course, if we speak about the electricity sector, it become dysfunctional because the kilowatt is being priced as with 9 cents per kilo, but at the price of 1,500. These are the bill collected at this price, but at the official price. And of course, there is a gap of selling, the cost of the bill. It is much more, it's much more. Why all the citizens or all the Lebanese people are going into using the generators that cost them around 42 cents per kilowatt. So this gap has been covered by the foreign reserve in the central bank. But nowadays, for the beginning of this year, the central bank, they stopped this to cover this gap. And that's why it happened that we reached to a point where there is no more money to buy fuel for the electricity. Also, the government is giving the country no more electricity. And in the government institution, we have a lot of collapse in the basic services because the budget of the ministry and the public departments are still in LBP. And with the deterioration of the currency, the ministries reach to a point where they are unable to purchase their basic materials, such as stationery or other needs. For example, they don't have plastic cards in order to issue driver's license. They don't have car plates in order to have for the cars. Passports, they don't have enough passport book, in order to provide the country, and the people are trying to get a passport. They are giving them appointment to get their passport after 1 year and after 2 years. The poverty rate in Lebanon has dropped, has doubled from 42% in 2019 to 82% in 2020. And this is something I believe that Lebanon have a poverty line to be 82. This is something never Lebanon has arrived at this position. Total destruction of Beirut port turned the winds, and its recovery to be 3 billion. As for the banking sector, of course, we have a very crisis, control adopted, and so now we have old dollar and the new dollar, and our deposit has been classified by the banks with the old deposit and the new deposit. And of course, a big haircut has applied on all deposits. It's around 85%. We impacted SMEs. Transfer from existing account to outside has been restricted, and he can transfer his old dollar to outside. This deterioration of the lira caused put a point where we have a multiple pricing for the same dollar. For example, we have the official dollar as 1,500. We have dollar used for loan payment. I mean, the official 1,500 is being used for loan payment. And we have the 8,000 Lebanese pound used as per Bdeir Circular 151, available of local USD. And we have the price of 29,800 circle Sairafa rate, now 39,000 per dollar. The economy is dollarized. The import, high demand for fresh Lebanese, and more merchants are in continual demand for those banknotes. This obliged the central bank to decrease the LBP supply in order to limit the currency printing. Faced with the lack of liquidity in LBP, the banks were obliged to set limits on LBP cash withdrawal. For example, in our bank, the limit monthly is 5 million lira, Lebanese lira per month, which is equivalent to $130, which is, I mean, they cannot be used for, I mean, for the commercial uses or for even personal use. Personal use is not enough. So therefore, merchants stopped accepting cards for payments. They are not able to proceed to use them later to buy dollar. So
right.
are faced a big problem where no cards being accepted in the market, because we are trying to convince the supermarkets, the pharmacy, the basic things to accept card. Most of the places they don't, and other people they take extra. They take a very high commission on accepting the card in Lebanese pound. So that's why the market is upside down. So
right.
the economy is turned to be a cash economy. All these problems pushed the bank to be no more they are banks. We are now a service provider, and like exchange houses. No more corporate or retail lending. We are not working on attracting deposits. On the contrary, the bank concern now is to get rid out of deposits as they turn to be a burden or liability on the bank.
Okay.
So the bank role
Randa,
has been changed. Huh?
Sorry, if you don't mind if I just jump in, just
Yes.
so, because I'm conscious of time. I think that's very good insights and a very good impact or overview of the impact that it's having. I think that's a nice segue into a question for Gebran. As a result of everything that's been happening and the challenges that people face and the changes in the financial system and even the everyday lives as Randa described, of people, how is the relationship changing between customers and financial brands? Whether it's banks, payments companies, fintechs, how is that relationship changing, and what is it that financial institutions have to be, focused on or mindful in, Lebanon's future?
Exactly. Just building on what Randa was saying, the major turning point on the customer relationship was mainly due to this financial crisis that started back in October 19. And the major change in the relationship is the lack of trust and credibility that banks went from being one of the first banking sector in the region to overnight being not able to give access to customer deposits. So this was the major turning point, the credibility, the trust, and clients had to go to alternative channels. One of the major one was to go to a cash-based economy, as Randa was saying. And in line with this, other new businesses has been appearing. On the banking side, it was the new money transaction business that started moving in. That is fully cash-based, where you have cash accounts in dollars, cash accounts in LBP, and all the transactions are happening in cash. So kind of you opened a new business, a new money bank that is fully operational on cash-based transactions in LBP and in dollars. And this is where banks have started to regain trust in the relationship or trying to provide commitments, good quality of service, so that the life of the individuals continues. They can still receive the remittances through banks. They can still make payments, bill payments, or make cross-border transfers, specifically for the businesses as well. They needed to import goods or export their production. This is where this new kind of new money business, transaction business has been created. Now, the challenge for banks is how to digitize this component. It's cash-based, digital is facing a lot of challenges. I give you an example, ATMs. ATMs can accept a certain number of like 1,000 banknotes per on their cash deposits. Now they have to handle with the currency devaluation much bigger number of banknotes to deposit. How to address this challenge in the future is a big question mark. Probably this requires a new banknotes from the regulator or a new operating model, but banks are now addressing this main component is how to digitize the new money transaction business. Even branches has been impacted with this. Branches number of transaction has reduced by 60% compared to pre-crisis. Yet the ticket size has increased dramatically, and branches are now fully operational as a cash counter. So this is where the digital comes into picture. I think the opportunity here is digitize this new money. We have seen money transfer companies jumping into this void that was created by the banks to take part of this business, that is transaction business, mostly remittances, but everything else on a day-to-day business for companies. And the rated payroll they need to pay, the merchant payments. This is still cash-based, and a challenge how to digitize this and make digital payments.
Okay, and you're right, and I think that's also a very interesting point of, because of the situation and the remittance focus in the cash-based economy, there's a lot of, I think, fintechs and startups coming in to kind of address, you could say, the market gap. And it's interesting to see, or be interesting to know from your point of view, also maybe Randa and Gebran, how is that affecting the kind of approach or the strategies of institutions like Bank Audi and Crédit Lebanese? Is it a case of collaborating with the fintechs? Is it a case of seeing, let's say, startups and fintechs as competitors, which are then spurring your own digital strategies into kind of overdrive? Do you think the winning kind of combination for the future? Is it collaboration, or is it more on the competition side?
Okay, Gebran, take it.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead. No,
these ladies.
It's okay. Please. Okay, go ahead.
Please, no, go ahead.
All right, then I would probably say there are different types of fintech that there are those fintechs that are technology providers. And this is where we see a lot of partnership coming into picture with the technology providers. They know the technology very well. They have this innovation capabilities, this agile approach of doing things. And banks have their business know-how. They have the client base, they have the history, and this is where things comes into picture as in partnership to achieve new solutions in that sense. Now there are other fintechs that comes as business partners as well. We haven't seen a significant partnership between a business fintech and a bank, but this might come into picture. We've seen it lightly where I can give probably an example, an MTO issuing a card from a bank. This is one of the examples, but nothing significant so far on the business sense. It's more we're seeing it as a technology provider, as a fintech technology provider for the banks. This is from my side. Probably Randa would like to add.
The fintech startup are disrupting, usually are disrupting the market and disrupting also the existing product and services, because the fintech, their main focus usually is based on customer experience. And on extracting data and on decreasing their operational cost and all these things. So when we as a bank, we cooperate with those fintechs, there is a need for this cooperation, because the bank, they cannot move so quickly as those fintechs are quick. But at the same time, the bank have to use the open banking strategy to open their APIs to those fintechs in order for those fintech to be able to access the data or to access, the payment system and the infrastructure. So this collaboration is very important, but it's not easy, because the fintech, their main focus is to move fast, and the bank, their main focus is compliance, security issues, and legal things. So that's why we have sometimes a little friction between the banks and the startup. But with time, this friction is going to be much less, especially when the mindset of the old bankers will change, and they open their mind to accept that dealing with companies, fintechs, for example, like Codebase or other companies, that they are dealing with somebody that is supporting the technology, and they are well developed. So this is, I think, with time, the situation will become better and better, and banks will be, in order to digitize their process, will have to get used to cooperate with more and more fintechs to help them to move very fast.
I think both Gebran and Randa had touched on both points and both sides of the spectrum. And well said. Well said. Go ahead, Tom.
No, please, Tamer, go ahead. If you have any input on that one, please go ahead.
It's always a legit question, as how banks see those service providing, let's say, fintechs, if you like, on the business side, whether they see it as a threat, whether they see there's room for collaboration. A lot of fintechs are coming up with really brilliant ideas. They are fast, they are agile. Banks have to deal, as Randa said, with a lot of things on the back end. And that is pretty much consuming, not to mention the legacy systems. Gebran might elaborate on that more. Banks need really pretty much, they need to advance their technology and do those necessary changes to be able also to collaborate with those fintechs, if you like, because those fintechs are coming up with new technology. They don't have a big baggage on their backs, and they can pretty much move fast. And if you don't pay much attention to those fintechs, in no time they can really find their niche in the market and grow. And banks might be able to miss on that, or those small opportunities that really could explode into bigger ones.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very, very well put. I think and as Randa mentioned, and Gebran and Tamer supported, the future of finance is open, right? Whether it's collaboration open APIs, through technologies such as open banking, are the technologies of the future. And I think the way that products and services and customer experiences are created through that kind of technology is perhaps one of the ways that the country can rebuild customer trust. I don't know if Gebran, you can maybe elaborate on what are the other aspects of when launching in the current climate new products, new services, new experiences. What are really the key elements to winning customers over with these new technologies such as digital? How can we actually win the customers through that?
I think the key success criteria to really win the customer are based on two major components: agility and the way and the customer centricity in the way you design the solution, being able to adapt quickly to the market needs and the changing market needs, specifically in our market where the needs has shifted in a very fast pace. And the second one is cost effectiveness. Also specifically in our market, now that the whole socio-economic level has changed, the purchasing power of every customer has changed, we're looking at cost-effective solution if you are to target the mass community. And to achieve those, I believe there are a couple of points that would make it successful. One is going with the right solution partner that can provide you with the flexible and strong enough platform in terms of services, the microservices that it has the ability to add and change, and giving the bank the capacity to change at the front end, which is the second point. We should do what we know best, is the product development, the business development, the UI, UX, and leave everything else to the technology partner that sits whatever on the platform. Leave it for the technology partner and keep this flexibility for the bank at the front end in terms of ability to change the UI, UX, the product development perspective, new services that you need to add, and definitely that comes with it, the business development and the marketing. Third point would be on the cost effectiveness, is to go on a cloud-based solution. Probably leaving the infrastructure on a private cloud is an option probably in Lebanon that the regulator would accept. And it would be a good first step into a public cloud later on. This would also help in the agility and cost effectiveness. One thing that is specific to banks is in any new solution, try to decouple it as much as possible from the traditional platform. And decoupling it helps us as banks start on a clean technology, clean architecture, putting behind the legacy and the complexity, and going with simple products addressing the new needs of the market. And I think this point is also very important to focus on and put it on the priorities and the digital strategy for a bank, and making it a successful digital product for the customer.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Can I add something? The change in the role of the bank is no more, we are no more lending to the public. So now the only needs of the public is to be able to have the fresh money services and products in order to use them. For example, credit card in fresh money, to be able to travel, to be able to have access to, let's say, Google Pay, I don't know, Netflix, and all these things. So the market is in need for maybe small payments or big payments, but those payments, they come not from lending from the bank, they come from preloading. I mean, and this is something new. We never had it before in Lebanon, because the banks in Lebanon used to be very active in lending in the market, and now no more lending. Everything is being preloaded by the client, and then so as to be able to use the product. So there is a change in the structure of the product that we are putting in the market nowadays.
Is it Randa more on the aggregating side, or let's say bringing a lifestyle into that experience of using those services on a mobile device, for example?
Yes, we are trying, for example, like the project that we are working with Codebase with it is to issue a virtual card. This we are trying to change the way that the client, because the client or the citizen, he doesn't want to come to the bank. He doesn't want to see the face of the bank. They don't want, they hate us. We have a very bad relationship together with us. That's why, but at the same time, he's in need of services. He is in need of an international card to be able to enter into to make an online e-commerce, or to enter in, to travel with it to other countries. That's why he's obliged to take those cards or those services from the bank. So that's why we are trying, with the collaboration with Codebase or with other fintech, to give them these services that will facilitate their life.
That pretty much makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a very, very good insights on that, and really kind of like playing on that idea of collaborating and kind of developing. You know, as you said, customers might not be happy with the institutions, but you know, it's still a necessity. They need the products and services to kind of conduct their daily transactional needs. So where do you think, and how do you think you know, success has been across support and collaboration between, you know, credit bureaus and you know, central bank and regulators in the country, which are obviously, you know, new products and services. You know, crypto, I think, was recently something that was allowed to be used with merchants in Lebanon. We've talked about digital remittances and mobile wallets being sort of officially allowed. You know, how do you see the future kind of evolving with, and where is, you know, how strong is the support from the regulatory authorities and the credit bureaus in helping you and allowing you to develop your, you know, innovative products and services?
I mean, for me, the question I can answer.
Yes, you can start off, Randa.
Yes. You know, before this crisis, the Bdeir was not very much encouraging those electronic payments. I mean, like digital banking, like internet banking, like the mobile banking, because they were a little concerned about the security of the thing. But for example, they begin to work on the digital signature, but it never passed through the never through. It's still unofficial, acceptable as a digital signature. But after the crisis, 2019, and because the Bdeir or the central bank is faced with a cash economy, and in order to reduce the demand for banknotes, and in order to attract the unbanked population who voluntarily left the bank, or by force they left the bank. And in order to stimulate the usage of cards, because as I tell you before, the merchant stopped accepting cards, the central bank was obliged to loosen those restrictions, and by launching initiative that helped to transition the financial operation towards digital channels, and a lot of circulars were put in place. Those circulars speaking about, for example, the e-wallet, about the eKYC. It took us sometimes to convince the central bank to allow us to go into a digital KYC. So it took us, to accept it. And at the same time, they made some circular speaking about the issuance of cards linked to e-wallets, and about issuance of virtual card. All these things are new in the market, but the central bank was very much, let me say the word, cooperative. They were very cooperative to understand our need and the need of the Lebanese people. So they made a step out of their way by accepting this the digital onboarding, which they never before accept the digital out, because they were a little afraid of some security issues. But they were very cooperative and they helped us a lot, and that's why our project with Codebase, I think, will be successful, of course, with the help of central bank.
Okay, I think you're right. I mean, no, it's a very good and thoughtful answer. I think as you rightfully said, change is never easy, and sometimes it takes a little longer. But I think, as long as it's happening and it's being pushed through, then I think, obviously it'll mean great things, for the people. We actually have a question from our audience, which kind of which relates to this. Of course, in many countries, the central bank is one of the drivers towards digitization. And maybe in some ways you've sort of addressed this, Randa, but do you think, Gebran or Randa, do you think that this is the case in Lebanon, or should it be that banks and financial institutions actually are pushing central banks to digitize, or should it be the central banks that push financial institutions to digitize? What's your perspective on that?
Personally, I think it's both ways. Sorry, go ahead, Randa.
No. I just want to add one sentence only, and then I'll let Gebran comment on this.
Sure,
Usually, I prefer that usually, and not in Lebanon, I'm speaking about a general thing, that the central bank, they push the banks into digitization, because the central bank, he can push it very quickly, and he can, by giving laws and by organizing everything, they help the banks to change their mindset from the old banking to a new banking. So that's why, from my point of view, it's the central bank who should push the banks into digitization. And
Gebran,
I would only add, probably, I think it's I would only add that from both sides it could also work. Like, I mean, think of the sandbox. In most of the countries where the regulator gives you the right platform, but for banks to come in, try new things, sandbox for startups, sandbox for banks, new ideas, and the sandbox is just a platform to come and innovate, try, and then you would learn hand in hand with the regulator, and then after monitoring this new ideas growing, and you put the right spectrum, the right framework of regulation around it. So yes, the central bank has a role, but the banks has to be going hand in hand, probably, and sometimes pushing a bit further, learning things together, and putting the right regulatory framework around it. And in our case in Lebanon, I think the mindset is there, starting with Bdeir C31 fund that Tamer was mentioning. We had one of the largest funds for startup in Lebanon that the central bank issued it through the banks, and they still have the mentality of going innovating. They had the initiative for central bank digital currency. It hasn't reached its final stages, but they have been working in this direction. E-wallet licenses, e-wallet circular. I think soon we might be hearing of e-wallet national switch, probably, that the regulator will be working on in the near future, and we're in need for that. So, but they have also priorities on the challenges that they're facing. Probably the pace is slow or can be improved, but I think the mindset is there, and we need to go hand in hand in this initiative.
I think at this point, Gebran, you're right, and Randa, you're also right. There's a mindset. Just if central bank is in the right mindset, they can stay at this point being reactive, because usually technology comes before regulation in general. So that motion keeps going. A lot of companies approach those financial institutions saying, this is a new technology, this is what we're offering, and so on and so forth. And then any financial institution or a bank would go back to central bank saying, we want to adopt this new thing. Do you have any objection there? So some go through a non-objection type of okay from the central bank, and some others would have to go if it's something on a bigger scale, newer, open bank, for example. Then we do the whole sandboxing, if you like, come down, try and do all that. But I think, being outside Lebanon myself and seeing even the experience that Lebanese had gone through, I've seen timelines that exceed the timeline that Randa yourselves have really experienced with your own central bank in the middle of the crisis. So pretty much I see it in a positive manner that, they responded. Maybe for you, it took a long time, but I've seen it elsewhere within the region, whether it's in the Levant or within the GCC, that the regulator would take much longer to come back. And, there's a lot of back and forth, and companies like us would suffer in the middle, just waiting for an okay to come through. So I think, yes, both sides are pretty much.
From our own experience, the central bank was so agile. So as you said, we are in the middle of a crisis.
Yes.
And they have a lot of problems. When I pushed for this digital onboarding, AKYC, they were very receptive, and they moved fast with me, and they give us the
100%.
100%. What I tried to say for Gebran, I know that usually the banks, they push the central bank and the regulators comes later on. But in digitization, there is a lot of budget constraint, and digital transformation needs a lot of money. So usually a bank will not go into a project that needs a lot of money unless that he knows that if this project he spent on it money, he can launch it in the market. So that's why we prefer that the regulatory accept this kind of digital channel so that we can work on it. Because to spend money and to work and to spend time, and then all of a sudden, if the regulator doesn't accept to legalize it, we cannot move forward. This is what I try to say.
100%.
We have a question from one of our attendees, which I think is kind of segues from this. If banks are obviously making less revenue or having less income because lending is restricted and the issues that are being faced, what is it that is where are the funds kind of being allocated for these kind of digital investments or projects, and how are they being kind of funded to be successful? I mean, I think you've touched on that a little bit, Randa, but I don't know, Gebran, if you have many an input on that and some advice on that.
Definitely, transaction business as in stand alone is not enough, since the deposits and lending, the two other main pillars of banks has been crippled for now, and waiting for the new government recovery plan, the gap resolution plan, the bank resolution plan, and all the banks are waiting for all of those plans to be implemented by the government. Today, banks know they're not having the right P&L. There are less and less budgets. There are almost compared to previous day, budgets in technology and innovation are very scarce. Yes, it is a main challenge. Transaction business is about keeping things living, moving forward. And even if we look at transaction business everywhere in the world, look at the new neobanks that started with only transaction to acquire market share. They managed to acquire market share, but they never made money. Now they're going into the phase of monetization, when they start lending or investing their existing floating balances. So transaction is only about living, making market share. There's no big budgets for technology. It's a big challenge for us, and we're all eager to see a new government plan to put things back on track that resolve the issue for the depositors and for the banks and the bank shareholders.
I can add to that before we were entering into the innovation field because of the beauty of the innovation. This is what we did in Lebanon. What I can tell you in the card business, any innovation in the market was piloted by in the Lebanese market, and then it was spread all over to the other countries. But that's why we used to enter into the innovation just for the beauty of it. But now we enter into the innovation if it brings us fresh money. So that's why, as Gebran is saying, we are going into innovation that has transactional revenue in fresh dollars. We move into it. If not, we cannot. We are not tapping into any other product that it doesn't bring us directly fresh money to the bank.
I think that's very well put, and I think you're right. Innovation is a necessity more than a nice to have nowadays, and time to value and the time to recoup is obviously extended as with the case of neobanks. And I think as you've both said, larger institutions have to think like agile, smaller neobanks and kind of, approach the market a bit more with that mindset of a fintech or a software company. I think we have time for just one more question. So one of the attendees mentioned, do you think that we will see some consolidation in the banking sector in Lebanon? And I think, again, Gebran, you've touched on it slightly. How will banks digitize effectively when confidence is at an all-time low?
But basically, whether there will be consolidation or not, this is to be answered in the bank resolution plan. I think it's being prepared at this point at the government level. It's going to be voted on in the parliament. It's a big plan, and I think in all cases, consolidation, liquidation, it's a matter of the bank resolution plan, and the overall direction says that probably yes, and we won't have like this 25 banks that used to be pre-crisis, as in the market has shrinked in size. And how it's going to happen, I cannot answer. We need to see the plan. But on the second question, how will digitization? Sorry, you were saying, Tom, what was the second question?
Yeah. So how will banks digitize effectively when customer confidence is at a low currently?
Exactly. This is a challenge, but we've seen that with the new transaction business growing, this is how we need to rebuild the trust and the credibility with the clients. End of the day, it's really complex now to describe why this happened and who to blame. It's a big story, but I can tell you that confidence can be rebuilt on this new money, and we've seen it growing right now with the transaction business that is running on the fresh money on the LPP and the USD. There is a growing business there. It's not as it should be normally. It will only happen properly right after the full recovery plan will be implemented. Okay.
I think we'll slip in one last question because I think it's a very important one, and I think, Randa, this might be a great one for you to address. With all this digitization that's happening and the focus on innovation and institutions kind of pushing that agenda, how are you addressing the young skills challenge of new entrants, new minds, considering some of the exodus of the young generation of moving out of the country and going to other places, and the proverbial brain drain. How are institutions addressing the need for skilled workforces and IT kind of specialists, innovation specialists, fintech specialists?
Yes, we are facing a lot of problems of losing the high skill especially in IT. And so that's why the banks, and this is something always I'm pushing for it, that the banks and also all the companies have to understand this thing. And in order to understand, to try to put in competition with the other side of the world, that is, instead of letting my employee or my IT people or IT engineer to travel in order to find work outside of Lebanon, we are trying our best to keep them by giving them more some incentive or in fresh dollars, which is very difficult because the banks is not making a profit in fresh dollars. But that's why we have problems. And there is no, I cannot speak about a solution. I am facing a problem every day that the employee, he needs fresh money to live in this country because the economy is dollarized. At the same time, the bank or any institution is not having profit in fresh money in order to cover the expenses of those IT people. So we are trying our best to increase our revenue in transactional revenue in fresh dollars in order to be able not to have profit. We know that the banks will have no more profit, but just to sustain our work and to be able to survive this crisis until the time comes, as he said, Gebran, where they make a plan how to consolidate those banks and to keep the biggest or the banks that can survive this crisis.
Very well said. I think by Randa, this is common across all. The brain drain is an issue, but I would only add one thing, as the Tamer mentioned. We are lucky to have new recruits every year. We are building on new recruits. We as much as we can. There are always a new talent that is joining, but unfortunately the turnover is high. It's not only about banking or the financial, it's also about the country situation. We're also trying to keep them on interesting projects. We're building for the future. Banks will continue even in the worst countries. Hopefully not. We will be in a better situation country, but banks will continue. We will continue. We're building for the future. This is why we're and this is how we're keeping facing this challenge of brain drain with building a new technology, new solution for the future, hoping things will be improving. But yes,
inshallah. We have no doubt the Lebanese people are resilient people, and I think better times are ahead of us. So let's keep an eye on that.
Sure.
Alrighty. Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for this webinar. I'm being notified we're kind of running to our limit. I'd like to thank our panelists, Randa, Gebran, Tamer, obviously, for your time and your insights. Unfortunately, one of our panelists was unable to join due to some technical issues, but we'll definitely have him on for another session coming up. And to everyone who's attended, we hope you found this webinar insightful and informative. And again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for attending.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It was interesting.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.